So I think there's just not, like, we're all big because now we're the second state on domestic violence again. But I don't think we have enough services to where people will need therapy every day for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know there's hotlines, but they need to sit down and to talk to someone, all to just process through their not necessarily issues, but how they're feeling before they could ever, I think personally, be stable enough to ever try to start another relationship again,
Right.
or to even function in the world, because they've gone from that person either controlling everything or from controlling majority of things to now it's like a fish out of water. Like, oh, I don't know what to do. Before he'd bring the groceries, he'd do this, I know what to cook. It's literally their whole life when they make this decision gets flipped upside down. And so they're a fish out of water naturally, and then with everything else going on, I just don't think there's enough mental health out there in general, but especially for patients who are going through something emotionally, physically, and financially.
Right.
And as the book said too, for them to receive mental health help, they have to have a mental health diagnosis.
Yes.
And so domestic violence is not a diagnosis, so they have to be diagnosed with something along the lines of PTSD.
And not even anxiety. It has to be
Right.
like, it has to be like severe depression or PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they have like counseling per se, like where all of us sit in a, similar to an AA meeting where we all sit there and we all talk in a table, but I don't think that helps because some people are afraid to talk about their story.
Right.
And
Or to say
revisiting
how long
that.
it's been going on, because that
Right.
re-traumatizes them.
Mhm.
Because they're finally out of it, and then when they start to think about it, it's kind of like when someone dies, oh, well, they weren't as bad as they were. So they can be re-traumatized, but then make their relationship into something it was not. Oh, well, he only yelled at me because food was cold. Well, he did work all day. So this also puts them back into reverting back to going back to that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because if they're sitting there talking about it with someone who sits there and either confirms or tries to give advice as a therapist would, I think it would help better than having people who were in the same situation, because you can almost take on the role of everyone else because you're seeing, oh, well, theirs was much worse. Mine wasn't that bad.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. It could be worse.
Yes.
And expanding on what you were saying earlier, you made a very good point. You said they have to have a diagnosis, a mental health diagnosis. I was reading that most women will be scared to go get that mental health diagnosis because they're afraid that the man will try to use that, or woman, whoever, will try to use that diagnosis against them, maybe to take children or to gain custody.
Right.
So
You're exactly
they're
right
very
with that.
hesitant on going forward for that treatment, which then that just keeps them in a little stuck place.
Right.
So,
And they're also hesitant too if the male or female carries the insurance and then they're getting the medical bills,
right.
and then they're going to see that the victim has been seeking medical help,
Yes.
then that could put them in a whole
Whirlwind.
a whole
Problems.
tailspin, and we're going back to an abusive state.
Right. Very true. And then again, I was reading too that the women, I'm not sure if they do it in this state, but the women can tell the companies or facilities to send the bills or the statements to a mailbox other than the one at home. But then you go back to the fact on they will see that listed under their insurance, so that's kind of.
Or if they're the financial person in the house, well, how are you going to get money to pay for that bill?
Exactly, because most of the time these people don't let them have funds, just simply for that reason.
It's a way of controlling them.
Right.
And then with this, there's a lot of structural constraints because you don't want to overstep your bounds for your facility, but then internal structural constraints, again, as we said, you get kind of discouraged when you've tried and then you can't fix it. You can't fix it, so your internal structures start to change, and then the structure from the government and from healthcare has to change for it. There has to be other loopholes. There needs to be something that can be done other than one hotline, which I know if you overload someone with information, it may be too much, but there has to be a way to make it better other than screening questions and a hotline.
Right, and facilities like Safe Harbor, I do think that's a very good facility.
Mhm.
Maybe we should have, more of those in the world. Maybe not, more Safe Harbor buildings, maybe other types of buildings. But, they will house the woman and get her like a go-away house and clothing, food. So there are resources, but there's not enough. And do they do therapy there too?
They do the group discussions.
Okay, the support type
Mhm.
groups you said. But I do think there needs to be a little bit more than that, maybe a one-on-one kind of thing. Maybe somebody doesn't want to share, well, he did this or she did this with a whole group of people.
Or also with the kids, I think that's another thing, like we focus on the victim, even if the kids weren't abused
Right.
in any way, shape, or form, they were exposed to
They
it.
were.
Right.
And so I think they also would need to go to maybe just, not sleepovers, but sleepovers to see a normal, healthy relationship.
Yeah.
Just so they can see that's the way things are.
Right.
Because I think, again, for a plan for the future, if we don't go ahead and start with the kids, we're just gonna be in a worse cycle because they'll form why mom and dad split in their own heads and why this happened. And perception is not reality to children, just as it's not to adults. So I think we'd have to do also some things for the kids.
Right. I agree. Because then the child may think, oh, they broke up because of me.
Yes.
Right,
or-
they
might
could,
not be
right,
at
they
all.
could carry blame.
Right. And it might not even be them at all. But
Right.
exactly.
But then, when I was reading through this, I was thinking about the theories that are involved. And I think for the person who is the aggressor or is the abuser, it's more of an egoist thing. Like, I'm completely fine. I'm fine in my decision. This was right. If you wouldn't have done this, I wouldn't have done this. It's almost like I'm completely right. You're wrong. And then they're always trying to put the other person down. But then I think as healthcare workers and as society, we also have a giant veil of ignorance. But again, I don't think it's a purposeful one. I think it's just one, in no situation's the same. So even if someone's been abused, it's not the same as like if Mary was abused and then Sarah was. They're completely different. And then I know, as we've said in healthcare, our ignorance is we want you out right now. We want you out and safe right now.
Fix it right now.
Even though we know that's not reality, that's what we want and that's what we expect, unfortunately. So when it doesn't happen, we're discouraged and then we're like, well, they didn't really want help. And I think society's biggest thing is that way too. If you want out, you'll get out. And I don't think that's really the situation that they're in. I think it's just more so there needs to be more education on it to like make the ignorance less. But the egoism, I don't think there's any way we can change the aggressor because they're fixed, firm, and set in their beliefs.
Yes. And most of the time, they won't even see themselves as, I may be an abuser. They don't know. They just, the food was cold. This happened. You know what I mean?
Or if you
They're right.
wouldn't have gained some weight, I'm just trying to help you not have health problems.
Right.
Or no. Or financially, you can't budget money, so you shouldn't need money.
Right.
I'll give you the money you need because that way we can talk about what you're going to spend it on so you don't overspend.
Right. Very good thoughts. Very good thoughts.
Does anyone have anything else they were thinking?
I did notice one thing that I thought was very interesting. Here on the bottom of this page, it was saying that the people in like health insurance situations, people were being like denied treatment from the health insurance companies just because they were considered a high risk for injury and death, since they have been in the past or is currently being abuse. That seemed very interesting. It was on the bottom of page.
But that makes a lot of sense.
It does make
but
sense.
It's kind of like
Yeah,
we learned
right
in genetics with cancer patients,
Or
they
life
can't get life insurance
Right,
for
right.
5 years.
Disability or life insurance, because they were considered a higher risk for injury and death. I thought that was so interesting.
That is interesting. And that would prevent
Deter me.
someone, yeah, that would deter someone from,
I'd be
Or
like,
to
well, what
receive
if he
treatment.
really does beat me to death? I'd
Right.
like for my kids to
Right.
be taken care of, or my funeral to be taken care of.
And disability-
Unfortunately.
Disability insurance would be something that they would need.
Mhm.
And I
right.
feel like that's almost a discrimination against people
Mhm.
with domestic violence.
Because again, the only way they know is if you sought help, and then after you sought help, you'd want help. You'd want this to get out of the situation.
Right, because if you went back, you'd be in a lot of trouble with your person.
Then you could actually be beat
Right,
and then have not good things from it.
right.